Now available in paperback and e-readers from SJS Direct. Isis, House of Isis. The goddess next door takes on a hustling Hotep high priestess in Harlem in this Afrocentric Isis series adventure. Pick up Isis, House of Isis at online booksellers today. In South Fulton County, Georgia, they are celebrating the fact that the entire judicial system is run by African American women. And that means in that town of South Fulton, Georgia, the judge is a black woman, the police chief is a black woman, the district attorney is a black woman, the court clerk is a black woman, and the public defender is a black woman. And when I take a look at an entire city having its entire judicial system controlled by black women, I don't see it as a step forward. I see it as a step back. And the reason why I see it as a step back is because when you have an entire town's judicial system controlled primarily by black women, that means that there won't be a fair and balanced judicial system. When I take a look at an entire town's judicial system being controlled by black women, I don't see an interpretation of the law that's going to be objective, fair, and balanced. No, I see the foundation being laid for gynocentric Jim Crow in this town, and I see a model for gynocentric Jim Crow being implemented in this town. And the reason why I see the foundation for gynocentric Jim Crow being laid in this town is because when you have all of the members of a judicial system being women, that means we're not going to get a fair and balanced interpretation of the law based on objective facts. No, instead of us getting a fair and balanced judicial interpretation of the law based on facts, we're going to get a interpretation of the law based on emotion. Because when it comes down to females, females are primarily emotional. And because they are emotional, they will interpret events based on concepts like selective hearing and based on their feelings. Because when it comes down to most women, they don't tend to hear all of what people are saying. And that's why, in many cases, some women just can't be objective because they don't hear all the details. They only pick out selective words and then they react based on those selective words because they don't want to hear all the events. They just want to hear the things that they want to hear. And that's why having all these women running a court system is a dangerous thing, because this woman is not listening to the facts of a case. She's listening based on her emotions. And because she's listening based on her emotions, we're not going to get a balanced interpretation of the law, nor are we going to get judicial cases argued in a constructive manner in that court system. Moreover, when I take a look at that court system, I see a lot of bias that could possibly transpire in the future, especially against black men. Now, when I look at this new town of South Fulton, I see a town that's going to have especially a bias against black men. Now, some people would say a town that has all black women wouldn't be biased against black men, but I know the history between black men and black women, and some black women tend to hold grudges against black men who have hurt them in the past, and then they project that anger onto other black men in the future. And that means any man who's a black man, who's a defendant in this town, is going to be in for a hard time in this town, because with black women controlling the laws of this town and interpreting the law in this town, there's not going to be much justice for a black man in this town, because when it comes down to these black females, a lot of them have anger and bias against black men. And because they are emotional, they're going to let that color their feelings on cases, and it's going to lead to bias regarding the judgments that the judge makes in these cases, and the way the district attorney charges people, and the way the whole judicial system would work overall. So when I look at this court system, I don't see many checks and balances in this court system. And when you don't have checks and balances, you don't have a fair and just judicial system. No, you have something akin to the Star Chamber, or you have a kangaroo court that will go out of its way to railroad people. And you have the seeds of corruption being laid here in this town. And I'm looking at the big picture of it, and I believe in the future we may possibly see that because, again, when you have all black women running an entire judicial system, again, I don't really see us getting an objective judicial system that dispenses fair and balanced justice, especially for black men. And that's what people are thinking will come out of this, but I know that it's not going to come out of it because when it comes down to some of these black women, they can be just as racist as a white supremacist, and they can interpret the law in the exact same way as a white supremacist, not basing their case on fact, but basing it on feelings, and their feelings can manipulate the facts to make them want to punish a completely innocent black man, and their feelings about a case can make them see a black man as guilty when the standard in America is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But these females, because they are angry about their past and they have feelings about things, and then they interpret everything based on facts, and not on facts, but on their selective hearing, that's going to lead to a very dangerous set of legal precedents being set in this town. So if you're a black man, you really want to avoid South Fulton, Georgia, because this is not a town where you're going to get any justice, nor is it a town where you're going to get any peace. So this is a place when you hear about it, or in the state of Georgia, you definitely want to avoid, because this is a town where you're not going to be treated fairly, and you're going to have to deal with the possibility of gynocentric Jim Crow. And when I look at this judicial system in this South Fulton, Georgia, I don't see it as a step forward. I see it as a step back. And the reason why I see it as a step back is because in America, we're supposed to have a fair and just justice system, and I would like to see a little bit more diversity in that justice system in order to give us some checks and balances, because just like I wouldn't want to see an all-white male court system, I don't want to see an all-black female court system, because the outcome of a all-black female court system would be the same as an all-white male court system, and that really doesn't benefit people who aren't white men or black women, because the only people who would get any sort of favor in that court system would be white men and black women, because they would get passes for their alleged crimes, whereas black men would be disproportionately punished by these females in this court system. And that's where what would happen is we would not see people getting justice. They would just want to try to find a way to get out of this town. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.